So, welcome to the Secure Dynamics TechCast. With me, I have a brand new guest, George Finney, who is the CISO at Southern Methodist University. Welcome, George.
Thanks for having me.
So, guys, I'm going to start with something which I kid you not, I read the entire, I think, 6 or 7 pages in one shot. And I think it was compelling because of the ease with which you could read it, but also it was actionable, right? I'm talking about you're making security a habit, which you published, and I'm grateful you made it available to the wider community. But talk a little bit about what was the driving force behind it, and then I want you to talk about it. For me, those habits was like such compelling, actionable items.
Yeah, so I read a book. It's called Well Aware: Master the Nine Cybersecurity Habits to Protect Your Future. And so it took about 3 years to write, and it took a long time. I kind of had reverse engineered, and I figured out that I think there are 9 different categories of cybersecurity habits that we want people to live by. But really, it was all the research into psychology and neuroscience and habits to figure out how to actually enable people to do that. So that process was really eye opening. I mean, it was a lot of fun. Digging into psychology research papers or what have you. But really, what habits are about is I think identity. If for example, if you decide to go start eating healthy or exercising, right? You first need to change who you think you are, and the leading researchers on habits like BJ Fogg or James Clear or Charles Duhigg, they all recommend starting with that low hanging fruit. Like if you're going to go exercise, go to sleep in your workout gear, keep your shoes by the bed, and then you'll go for a run in the morning. So for me, it was really about thinking about how we can make security easy for people, right? We always think that it's hard, it's scary, and people tend to shut down. So if instead we can find that low hanging fruit to enable them to do that, and then they can follow that habit loop and start to build on that to get to bigger and harder things that we really need them to get to. That's I think what will make a difference in cybersecurity in the long run.
Yeah, and it was also, I mean, the fact that you put humor into this, right? So I can't not think about the fact that every time you open your inbox, you actually frown when you go through those emails. So it makes for a fun environment where it's like, oh yeah, you're going to get phished and look out for this character and some domain name that you haven't seen before. I mean, that's, I hate to use the word FUD, but that's really, I mean, what vendors have been doing, but then doing that to security users also. So I mean, so when you talk about psychology, how much of how much muscle memory does humor play into this? Because I can't forget the pushing the chair back, Control Alt Del, go get a Reese's cup, or like in this case, just frown when you're looking at your inbox and then go grab something. So, and have you seen that? I mean, work act. I mean, do people kind of make that like a muscle memory?
So humor I mean, it's I think the currency that we use, but there's a reason for that, and it's because smiling, it really it makes people feel safe. You connect with them in a safe way, and that's how you build trusting relationships. That's how you connect with people to do other bigger and better things. But you mentioned frowning. The opposite is true. And so in the book, I talk about this technique called the slow down and frown. And it helps you identify phishing messages by using on your body's natural vigilance mechanism. So when you've probably heard the research that if you smile for 30 seconds, it'll release endorphins and it'll like trick your brain into making you happy. But the opposite is true. So if you frown for 30 seconds, it releases chemicals in your brain that says your environment's unsafe, and you naturally become more vigilant.
Wow.
So we tested this at SMU. I had a contest and created like the perfect conditions for testing it. We gave out some vacation days for people playing the game, but we had like a control group and then a test group that we taught this slow down and frown technique. And as it turns out, the people in the frowning group were 43% less likely to click on a phishing message just because they were frowning. And what was actually even more surprising to me was that we also were measuring how many people reported the different phishing messages we used. And it turned out that the frowning group was 3 times more likely to report the phishing messages at the end of the day. And that in itself is so important, because we know phishing messages are going to slip through. And if we get a report even within the first couple of minutes that a phish has gone through, we can do things to block if it slipped past all our automated controls, we can still protect our community, right? Frowning is incredibly important. And so you have to have both, I think is the answer, right? You need multiple tools in your toolkit to help you be secure. And I think understanding what the tools are and how they work is just, it makes us that much better at cybersecurity.
Well, and then one final thing, which actually got me thinking a little bit. So I'm going to ask you this question, which is the last page, I think, had this thing about, hey, you need to have 11 different email accounts, say one for mailing groups, one for financial stuff, one for your friends and family and so forth. And that really made me pause for 11. I'm hardly able to manage 3. So talk a little bit about, have you seen success with that, with the students and people actually turning this on and seeing value out of it?
Yeah, so your average person, there's studies out there that say, people have like 2.5 on average email accounts. And usually that turns out to be like a work, a personal address, and maybe a second personal address. But today, I think with smartphones, it's easier than ever to think of email addresses as disposable, right? So when you look at your smartphone, you can have all of your email consolidated in one feed, you can have them separated. But when you get a message about your bank, right? So if you're at, I don't know, Wells Fargo or Chase or JP Morgan, all of those, will send you messages, and if that address is compromised, you know that if you're getting stuff to your old Yahoo account from 20 years ago, from that's supposed to be from your Chase account, and you have a secure compartmentalized email account just for your bank or just for your credit cards or just for your online shopping or insurance. All of those things, if you compartmentalize them, you can have a much better idea, both that it is who you say or who they say it is, and as well as who's sharing your information, right? So if you say you don't want your information shared, and you start getting a lot of spam or phishing, then I think that whoever you shared it with is selling your info against your wishes, and it's really hard to tell when it's all in one.
Yeah.
And compartmentalizing also has the advantage of, hey, you know what? If I shared my social media email account with a bunch of different places, and I'm just getting too much spam, I'm creeped out. Maybe you quit Facebook, but those people still have your email address, right? So, well, let me burn that one and create a new one that I'm still going to use for LinkedIn or maybe you're still on Twitter. I think that gives you a lot more power, and it lets you dispose of those email accounts without burning the real personal ones that you do want to have for a long time, to stay connected with your friends and family. And I think those, you've got to protect them, or else they just become another junk email box, right?
Yeah. Amazing. And again, I knew this was going to be fun, but again, thank you for sharing that valuable Winter 2021 with the larger community. I mean, I surely benefited from that, and hopefully people listening to this will be compelled to go and read that as well. So thanks, George.
Well, thank you. And definitely check out the book Well Aware. It's on Amazon and Audible or Barnes & Noble, wherever you like to get books.